Whenever I think about toy lines in the 80s, one of the toy lines that definitely pops up is Masters of the Universe. And even though I wasn't around whilst they were being released in the 1980s, I did get to play with them because older kids handed them down to me. I got to play with these wonderful and fantastic toys. Today we're going to take a look at the vintage Masters of the Universe toy line and pick my top 10 figures. Hi, my name is Ed and you're watching Ed's Retro Geek Out. So for this top 10, I'm only picking out of the vintage toy line, the 1981 releases up to the 1987 releases. I'm only picking out of the figurines, but there's actually quite a few action figures to pick from. There were almost 70 characters released in toy form, and I think we better start with number 10. Kicking things off with number 10 is Snakeface. This dude is one of the toys I remember playing with back in the day. My buddy had him in his arsenal of vintage toys that we got to play around with, and he always fascinated me. He's got this one action on the back. There's a lever that you press up. He's got multiple tongues flowing from his head, and he's got even more snakes coming out of his body when you press this lever. He's part of the Snake Man, that's why he has the Snake Man staff, and he's also supposed to come with a very cool green shield that really complements the other greens well on this toy. Now I'm guessing they have kind of a Medusa thing going on, although they did use the head sculpt of Man-at-Arms, but just re-sculpted it, added some more snakes on it. So this Medusa-based Master of Evilness has definitely got all the good things flowing for him. And then on to sizzling number 9. In the number 9 spot, we have one of my childhood buddies. This is Triclops. I did not know back in the day that this guy was actually a bad dude, so I actually had him playing along with He-Man. They were buddies. They would go on adventures together, and this guy, I was like, why is he frowning? Why is he frowning even more? And what's up with this straight face? The figure is basically just He-Man with a different paint job and, you know, a different head on him. I loved this toy back in the day, and when I found it again over at a flea market, I was like, gotta have this, gotta have this. Even came with the weapon and this really cool harness. Probably lots of nostalgic reasons going into this, but Triclops is my number 9. On to number 8. In the number 8 spot, we got Mossman. He's green, so he can be seen.
Mossman. Mossman is green, so I can't be seen.
And that's pretty much why I picked this toy. When I started getting into retro collecting, I started looking up old commercials. One of the laughing gold mines for me was watching old He-Man cartoons, you know, with the He-Man, He-Man. The most silly one, in my opinion, was definitely Mossman. Mossman, he's green, so he can't be seen. Just thinking about it still cracks me up. But the toy is equally cool. He's got the Pantor flocking going on. He used to come with a somewhat pine smell as well. He's got one of these brown weapons that, you know, will blend in well when he's, you know, hiding away in the forest like that. And the body is basically the same as Beastman with just the added camouflage functionalities of the flocking. Mossman, definitely my number 8. In the sizzling number 7 spot, we got Squeeze. Seems like this guy got a little stretched out. I'm just realizing now that my buddy almost had all of the Snake Men, and I was obsessed by turtles. This thing looked as closest to a turtle figurine as you could get, so this was always my go-to. His gimmick is definitely based on the arms. He is a snake, and that's why he has these large snake arms. He also comes with this really nice snake weapon, together with the chest plate, contrasting that purple against that green and the orange. It just works together. This figurine pops off of your shelf whenever you display it, and I'm glad to own this one complete. Tongue Lasher. This guy is also a Snake Man, not one I used to play with back in the day. So yeah, not all of my picks are purely nostalgic. The reason I picked this one is same thing as with Squeeze. The colors just pop on this toy. And he's got this cool tongue lashing action. That's probably why they gave him the name. That was also reused in the TMNT Toon line. Yeah, Michelangelo has the same tongue lashing action as Tongue Lasher right over here. Another thing I find really cool about this one is the head sculpt, especially like the eyes popping out like a reptile. He's got the teeth popping out. His feet and his hands resembled that amphibious quality, really reminding you of a toad or a frog. Tongue Lasher in the number 6 spot. Then coming in the number 5 spot, we got He-Man, the man himself, Adam, the Prince of Eternia. I think I can still remember the first time I saw this toy together with Triclops, and I was just like, what the frick is this? I was used to turtles, and when I started playing with these guys, I was like, damn, these guys are buffed. At the time, one of my older friends also had him riding around on Battle Cat, and I was just like, wait, he rides this thing? This is so weird, but I mean, we kept playing with these toys over and over. I love that He-Man actually came with 4 accessories. He's got the belt, he's got a battle axe, he's got the shield, and he's got one part of the power sword. In my opinion, this is just an all-time classic. The thing about this He-Man toy is that without this toy being so popular and the mold of this body being made, we would have never had all of the knockoffs, all of the bootleg Masters of the Universe figures. I'm thinking about Galaxy Warriors, the Turley Gangs, we got Skeleton Force. People are still making 5.5 custom figures, and even the newer lines by Funko right now, like the Thundercats line that was done like the Mattel Masters of the Universe ones, or the crossover between Grayskull and the Wrestlers. We would have never had that if this toy wasn't as successful as it was. So I think the toy community owes a lot to this figure right here, and that's why it's in the number 5 spot. Then on to number 4. In the number 4 spot, we got Mosquitor. So, Mosquitor was released in 1986 as part of the Evil Horde. A bit late in the toy line, I have to admit, and I didn't know about this figure up until I started collecting. One thing that makes this toy really interesting is that it has a lot of new pieces. Not a lot of it has been reused or we have ever seen again within the toy line. One thing you notice right away is that head that is supposed to mimic a mosquito, and then on the back you got this button that when you press it, you actually have blood flowing through the toy. How freaking epic is that? I'm quite disappointed that this gimmick wasn't used even more in more toy lines. He also has the space boots that I had never seen before, and he's supposed to come with a laser, but unfortunately I don't own that accessory. He's part of the Evil Horde, and his blood pumping function is probably the best gimmick I've ever seen in the Motu toy line. So that's why he's in the number 4 spot. Definitely leave a thumbs up on this video, guys. And then yeah, here we have it, the top 3. Maybe you disagree with my picks, maybe you agree with them, but one thing you should definitely do is leave your top 3 figurine picks of the vintage Masters of the Universe toy line down in the comments below. Maybe share it to some of your Masters of the Universe friends together with this video. Now on to number 3. In the number 3 spot, we got the original Skeletor. Skeletor is one of the best villains out there. In the cartoon, you know, there's no question about it. He's the favorite character for everybody. Everybody loves Skeletor.
Silence, you furry fool!
Skeletor's voice in the cartoons can be forgotten. If you don't have a good villain, you don't have a good show. And Skeletor is one of the best out there. The first time I saw this toy is when we were playing with Castle Grayskull. He-Man was sitting on the throne. My buddy twists this chair, and down into Castle Grayskull goes Skeletor. I pick up the toy, I look at his skull face, and I'm like, damn, this is a freaking cool toy. It came with this special staff that has the ram skull on it, you know, lots of these occult symbols going on. You got like a bat type of thing on his armor, and of course he has the other part of the power sword. Now Skeletor has always been one of my favorites, and he definitely deserves a spot in the 80s toy line Hall of Fame. But he's in my number 3 spots, so maybe you can already guess who's gonna be in the number 2 spot. In the number 2 spot, we got 1987 Scareglow. This toy was released late in the toy line, and that's why he's so sought after by every vintage Motu collector. The toy has a glow-in-the-dark gimmick that was also featured on the weapon that it came with in the European release. The American release actually featured a toxic green colored staff like this. He also came with a cape, providing much needed contrast for the toy. Otherwise he was just a glow-in-the-dark figurine. Just like Skeletor, he's got this skull and skeleton thing going on for him. He just looks epic. Obviously, Scareglow can be best appreciated when he is glowing in the dark, so that's why he's in the number 2 spot. Then on to number 1. In in the number 1 spot, we got Hordak. Hordak is my favorite character in the vintage toy line. And even though he was released as a vintage Masters of the Universe toy, he was actually the main villain in the She-Ra cartoons. Now, I am missing a couple pieces, some accessories that come with Hordak. He has his own evil horde that consists of a couple of really cool figures that we've already touched on. But yeah, this figure is just filled with tons of occult symbols going on. He's got a really cool cape on the back right here. He's supposed to come with a crossbow, and he's also got a bat that he can pop onto his arm. And I especially like the Horde logo that he's got on the chest, but also on the boots right here. Hordak was also released in 2 other versions. You had the Hurricane Hordak, and you also had the Buzz Saw Hordak, but my favorite still remains the initial release.
Hordak? He's my spirit animal. Is he? I think so.
I don't know, there's just something about Hordak that always gets me hyped up. I like the way he looks so freaking badass, and that's why he's my number 1. Alright guys, I want to thank you all for watching this top 10 on vintage Masters of the Universe figurines. Definitely leave down in the comments below the comment question of this video. I want to know your top 3 vintage Masters of the Universe figurines. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and maybe share this video to one of your Masters of the Universe buddies. And I will see you in the next video. See you later. Bye. Leave down in the comments below what your top 3 not TMNT. We're not talking about TMNT right now, Ed. And even though, even though he's very scary, glowing in the dark, he does have like a Harry Potter scar thing going on his skull right there.